So I think I may share a little bit more of a pessimistic perspective on Aliyah with having an Israeli parent. If you look at it, you're like, this girl is like a hot mess express. Like, who is she? And she basically said to me, like, I don't think you're a strong enough writer, but how are you with social media? So Philly is mini Israel, is what I call it.
Do you ever think of moving back to Philly? Do you ever think of leaving Israel?
I definitely do. We were able to raise close to $400,000, helped close to 15 to 20,000 soldiers. To this day, like, helping reservists is like my mission in life right now.
Welcome back to another episode of Yalla, Let's Go, the podcast Abbey and I started to remind ourselves why we made Aliyah, and hopefully convince some of you guys that it's a good idea too. We're going to talk to people from all walks of life. We've talked to people who work in high tech, we've talked to athletes, chefs, influencers, journalists, so many people, and ask them the questions you really want to know about what it means to build a life in Israel. Today we're going to talk to Gili, also known online as Gili from Philly, who made Aliyah from the US, built her own TikTok marketing agency from scratch that crossed over $1 million in revenue, and she's here with us today. But first, as always, let's ask Abbey for a pulse check. How are you feeling about living in Israel right now?
Today I feel very overwhelmed. It's summer, it's hot, it's our favorite season. I have 6 events at night this week.
Oh my God.
That's more than I can handle. I had an amazing Nouveau event this week with a really cool tech leader. My daughter had her end of year dance performance, which was just the most emotional. I have 2 weddings, and it's my best friend's birthday, and I had a friend surprise me from Argentina.
Wow.
So I am stacked socially, which feels awesome, and also like I could use like a little afternoon nap.
Wow. Like, when are you going to like watch Netflix and binge?
I'm gonna have to schedule that in.
Yeah. When is the
Good
time
things,
for
but
that?
overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay, so Gili, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited that you're here. Normally, we always start off with asking people to tell us their life story in less than a minute, but first I have to congratulate you. You recently got married.
Thank you so much.
Mazal
Thank
tov.
you.
And you got married in Italy,
Yes,
right?
in Rome, in the great Synagogue of Rome, which I feel like
Wow.
every Jew visiting Italy has seen, the big church-looking synagogue.
Wow. So first tell us, how did you plan a wedding from Israel in Rome?
So I'm a very last-minute person, so we planned the wedding like 2 to 3 months before, and
Oh my gosh.
I have a little bit of a hot take on weddings, though. Like, I never, I was obviously really excited about it, but I wasn't the kind of person growing up that fantasized about my wedding, and I always viewed it as like a 5-hour event. So I just kind of approached it with like a very chill. I booked everything I booked the venue, everyone without stepping foot and seeing anything. Everything was online. And just to like laugh my way through it, Gavriel and I, my husband, we basically said whatever is gonna happen. And it was funny and great and silly. And I think that's like my approach in life too, is not to take things too seriously. So it was a very like light, fun.
That's a good approach also for life in Israel.
Yes, that's helped me survive here. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now tell us your life story.
My life story. Okay, in 1 minute. So I'm from Philly. Gili from Philly is my nickname. I have an Israeli mother and an Jewish American father from Philadelphia. Grew up in the suburbs of Philly, went to study philosophy, was always a very philosophical kid. My rabbi growing up, I sat in his office when I was in like 4th grade and asked him, if God created us, who created God? And he was like, you're in 4th grade, like, please go home. like just stop. So I think that really led me to study philosophy and just like question the world. And for 4 years in college, I did not have one internship. I did not do any networking. All I did was read and think and learn. And I'm really, really grateful because it was a privilege to have that. And then after college, I was super lost, didn't know what I wanted to do. Ended up here. I did a year of service with the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, such a mouthful. JDC is what I call them, or in Israel, the Joint. I spent a year working with youth at risk, and then I got into tech, and one thing led to another, started my agency. So that's the condensed version of it.
Amazing.
Yes.
All right, let's go back to Philly for a second.
Yes.
You grew up with a gorgeous American mom and your dad. You had Bamba in your lunchbox.
Yeah.
It was always in your world, but when did Aliyah become a thing for you?
So I think I may share a little bit more of a pessimistic perspective on Aliyah with having an Israeli parent that left Israel. I think a lot of my friends that made Aliyah that have, two non-Israeli parents, they feel very like supported. Like moving to Israel, making Aliyah is such an accomplishment. My parents are so proud of me. And for me, it was like quite the opposite. Like my mom really did not want me moving to Israel. And it's a very common trope with Israeli American kids is that their parents will say like, I gave everything to raise you in America and give you all the opportunities. Like you're going back now. So there is a lot of tension in that story, to be honest. But I always joke with my parents that they raised us in such a Zionistic home. Bamba. My mom would dance around. My mom loves Israeli music, dance around the kitchen, only had Israeli friends over. She would drive 30 minutes out of her way. There was one supermarket in Northeast Philly that sold Hawaii shampoo. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And she was like,
Hawaii.
I'm getting you Hawaii shampoo and we're going to go. And we'd pack our suitcases when we went to Israel full of kario and all these snacks to have that Israeli lived experience in the house. So when I was ready to make Aliyah and it was like such an obvious thing for me, it was this like dissonance. My mom was like, no, I don't want you to. And I was like, but I grew up loving Israel. And so it's a whole different thing, but it's very interesting. I think a lot of Israelis that left and started lives in America want their kids to stay in America, which makes sense.
So after you got here, you did this year of service, which is a really great kind of first integration, but you went from that to ironSource, one of
Yes.
Israel's largest IPOs.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. How did you go from year of service to a huge tech company?
Yes. So another philosophy of mine is fake it till you make it. I really, really deeply believe in that. And so
So
what
do
hap-
we. So do we.
Yes, amazing. So what happened is I spent this year essentially volunteering. I was working with youth at risk in Bat Yam. I was teaching English. I was working on a lot of cool grants with the Joint. And I studied philosophy. So I didn't really know what was meant for me. I did not even know what a KPI was. I didn't know how to open a Google Doc. Like I was the farthest thing from tech. Just so funny now because I'm utterly in love and obsessed with the tech scene now. So it's just crazy how much you can develop and shift. And so what happened was I wanted to stay in Israel and I said, I like writing. Like I've always been a good writer. So let me apply to some writing jobs. And I got a million no's. I literally saved them all. I think it's over like 50. Every tech company denied me. No one even looked at me. And I got interviews. And then suddenly my luck shifted and I had like 3 offers in a week.
Wow.
And one of them was like a really big, like similar to ironSource. I won't say the name. And I said to them, okay, is this offer, 100% set in stone? I'm going to say no to 2 other offers. They said yes. I said, great. I remember I went home that night. I went and bought work clothes and I was so excited. And then 2 days later, they just never sent the contract and they rescinded the offer. This is like a massive tech company.
Oh my God.
And I said to them, I just gave up 2 offers. And then I was back to square one. I was like, I have no more offers anymore. Like I couldn't go back and it was messy. And I remember I applied to ironSource and for a content writing position and they brought me in for an interview. And I knew, like, I'm a very, like, trust your gut. I knew I had to work there. I was like, this is a place I have to work. I really, really liked the hiring manager who was my manager there. And I went home and I was like, that's where I'm going to work. I did all the assignments. I did everything. And I got a denial email. And I was like, this is not sitting right. Like, this is not the way it's meant to be. And I basically was like, they closed the door. I'm trying the window. And I sent this I'm a huge Adam Grant. I love Adam Grant. And I wrote this whole email, like, I really believe in hiring on the potential of someone and not the experience. I promise you I'm going to be the hungriest, hardest working person you'll ever see. Just give me another chance. And they didn't answer me. And I just kept emailing them. And then Jazz, who was my manager at the time, was like, okay, this girl's hungry. Let's bring her back. Like, she's annoying me. Let's bring her back. And she basically said to me, like, I don't think you're a strong enough writer, but how are you with social media? Now, back to the fake it till you make it. I never had social media. I was a philosophy major. I never had Instagram. I think I opened Facebook a little bit and deleted it to find apartments, but I was not a social media person.
Wow.
And I was
So weird to hear you say that.
Yeah, I was like, the joke in my friend group at college was like, Gili doesn't have Instagram, show her what's going on in the world. Like I was just knee deep and just studying and learning. And I was very nerdy in college, didn't go to parties and just learned. And so what happened was she said, how are you with social media? And I said, great. Great. I went home that night and I watched 4 hours of how to upload an Instagram story, how to open an Instagram account. I knew nothing. And I joined ironSource and I delivered my promise. I was the hardest working, I was super hungry, super motivated. And every single day I was being paid to learn because they would say, Gili, can you make an Instagram story of that? And I would go into the bathroom stall and be like, how to make an Instagram story and try to figure it out.
And this was before ChatGPT.
Yeah. And I just told myself, I'm going to be the best. What my dad and my great-grandfather told my grandfather, told my dad, either love what you do or do what you love, and like 500%. And I was like, I'm going to be obsessed with this, and I'm going to just learn everything there is. And I treated it like a degree, and I would, go home nights and weekends and just watch as many social media, YouTube videos, podcasts, read everything about every algorithm, and just like was like, I'm going to get a PhD in this. I'm going to give myself a PhD in social media. And slowly, I'm a quick learner. I was able to like really grow. And then I was like, I'm good for fun post on the weekends because I now know social media. And before I knew it, I got 50,000 followers on TikTok. My TikToks were bringing in more CVs to ironSource than any other campaign at the time because I was averaging 5 million views a month. Like, it was crazy reach. And the recruiters would come and knock on the marketing team, like, another CV from Gili from Philly, like, and a developer just walked in, heard of us through Gili from Philly. And I was like, wait, there is something here that we need to capitalize on. And that was like the moment everything shifted, essentially.
So how did it make you think, though, that this could be an actual business?
So looking back, like, in retrospect, everything is so clear. Looking back, it wasn't that clear that it was going to be a business at first. So I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur really, really early on because I was working and grinding my ass off. And I was like, I want to do this for myself because it doesn't matter how hard I'm going to work for ironSource. I'm not going to get more money. So, and I really realized that like 6 months in, and it was in my head for a long time. And Noam, who's my now co-founder, was on the marketing team with me. And I came to her and I was like, I want to start something. Let's start a tech company. We're really good. We're content creators. Let's do it. I would every Friday just like watch what is VC on YouTube. Like I knew nothing. And Noam actually was like, Gili, forget about VC for a second. We both know how to create content and how to do something that we can make money from day one. Like, we have profitable skills that requires no overhead costs. And she was the one that's like, let's just start this. Let's do TikToks for tech companies. And at first I was really apprehensive because I was like, I don't know. There's no buy-in right now. And then it was just very fast. Everything changed. And I was like, okay, let's do it. We quit together. We quit on the same day. And a month later, we had our first client and we're building out Pink Chili. And the first chunk of Pink Chili was just getting buy-in from tech. I would host a free webinar every month, and sometimes 5 people will join, sometimes 50 people will join, and it would just be why you should have a TikTok account if you're running a tech company or startup. And it was just getting buy-in and convincing C-suite execs, founders, why you need this, why you need this. That was the first approach to how we started it.
It's super interesting, and the fact that you and Noam took the plunge together the same day is gorgeous. What has it been like really building a business as an immigrant with an Israeli co-founder? Talk us through some of the early challenges and early successes.
For sure. So we definitely complement each other because I bring like the type A American, like arrive 45 minutes early to a meeting. And like I've had 4 film days in the past 4 days. Like, even now when I'm 5 years into my business and I don't need to prove myself anymore, I always arrive at least 30 minutes early to a film day, and I sit and get a coffee outside the office because that's how I was raised. Like, it's just the American mentality. Whereas Noam is quintessential Israeli, gets everything done, and is like just like a Jill of all trades and just like incredible, and like is the opposite of me. Like, she's type B, she's much more relaxed, she's less stressed than me, and we really balance each other out. So she's always dealt with like the Israeli side of our business, right? And I've dealt with like a little bit more of the American side, is what I say. And I think I wouldn't have really been able to do it without her. She did all of the back end. She does all the bookkeeping. She does all of the Hebrew accounts. I do all of the English accounts. So we really complete each other.
So you have yourself over 50,000 or 54,000 followers on your personal TikTok account. Can you tell us a story of like, I don't know, a TikTok that you made that went viral, and how also did it feel to share your personal journey with the rest of the world?
Yeah. Well, so it was so crazy because I was such a private person all my life. And I never chased like vanity metrics. And because I never like cared about like what my feed looked like and everything, like all of my videos are so embarrassing. Like, my hair is always a mess. I'm in pajamas. Like, I'm walking on the street, and like if you look at it, you're like, this girl is like a hot mess express. Like, who is she? But I think I was just super authentic, and I was like, I'm gonna show all of you what it's actually like to live in Israel, to work at a tech company. And I know TikTok has a lot of bad reputation and nothing's perfect, but there's a lot of good in it as well. So I try to focus on that.
Listen, you've taken this idea of giving your services and trying to help people. in the very beginning, you hosted an event for 200 people to try to get a client.
Right.
Why? How?
So I really believe, so I'm obviously married, but when I was single and also my single friends, I really believe in the law of attraction. So like I always tell my friends, if you're gonna go on a date with a guy and you're gonna give off desperate energy, no one's gonna want you. So you have to walk into any meeting like really, but believing that they would be lucky to work with you, lucky to date you, lucky to be your friend, anything. And so that was an example of that. It's like, I'm not going to go cold pitch clients. I'm going to host the coolest event and fill the room and make it really cool and sexy. And they're lucky to come. And if they want to work with me, they can reach out to me. We've never done one outbound in Pink Chili in 5 years. 100% inbound. We haven't spent $1 in marketing or sales. We have no BDRs. And our pipeline, we've only like grown year over year, month over month. And I really believe in that. So that event was like quintessential, like let's attract people to us. And I think that's also with personal branding, whether it's LinkedIn or TikTok. It's if you're looking for a job, for example, instead of course it's important to apply, but imagine if you posted on LinkedIn every day with like a really interesting challenge. Like my husband was looking for a job and I said, let's do a challenge that he's a vibe coder. Let's build something every week and write on LinkedIn, I'm going to build something new every week until I get hired. That is much different than knocking on the door, hi, can I please work with you, right? So just changing the way you wrap things. And I really believe in that. And I think that's also one of the reasons Pink Chili was so successful is we never gave off desperate energy. I never negotiate. I try not to. If someone's like being a little bit Israeli, like, oh, give me a discount. I'm like, I'm not selling bananas at the shuk. Like, if you if you want my services, take them. I don't need you. I would love to work with you, but that's not how I'm
you're
gonna
such a
do
guru.
business.
Yeah. So I have a question. Is it lucrative for influencers in Israel to have TikTok the same way it is in the US?
Well, because I think is TikTok Israel, and I'm not 100% sure if this is still true, doesn't have the same creator fund. It's a little bit different, but I would say like TikTok is top of funnel marketing. And like you can use TikToks and your TikTok page to drive more people to more, converting, whether it's like a newsletter or long form, a YouTube, a podcast. So I do think it's very lucrative if you know how to approach it, for sure.
All right, I want to pivot a little bit.
Yes.
On October 7th, you were in the United States, and you being there, I think, helped inspire what you did in the months after. You created Unit 107, this massive supply chain organization that raised hundreds of thousands of dollars and brought thousands of pieces of gear to Israel in its massive time of need. Can you talk us through those days?
Yes. Actually, Daniil and I were here, we were chatting about it. Every time I talk about it, I get nostalgic because I'm probably like the most proud of that in my career. Essentially what happened, so October 7th, I happened to be in America. At the time, I thought I was going to get my MBA, so I was back in America doing a tour of different MBA schools. And I woke up at 4 a.m. to calls from our family, and I just was like itching, like I have to do something. And October 8th, I was already hosting a webinar about Hasbara and marketing and how to post about Israel. Maybe like 8 people came, I don't know, I don't really remember it, but I remember thinking like, this doesn't feel like enough for me. Like, I don't mind giving free consulting and writing people's posts, but like, I really want to make a deeper impact. And then a day later, October 9th, I'm on a Zoom with some friends, and it all came through Nouveau. I texted Nouveau like, who can help me raise money? Who can help me get supplies? One thing led to another. It happened so fast. And then we were able to mobilize 400 volunteers. We treated it like a startup. We wanted no red tape, obviously no salaries, no NGO. As much as I love NGOs, but you never know what's going on. A lot of times, black boxes, fully grassroots. Let's just get money. Let's buy things on Amazon or wholesale. Let's pack it in luggages and suitcases and ship it to Israel with individual flyers. And then Daniil did all of the driving to bases. So already on October 9th, we had our first shipment of shlukarim, which I learned that word in the army. We had a lot of requests for like camelback. And to be honest, it was the most incredible thing. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I would look at my phone screen time every day, and it was like 18 hours, like crazy. I wasn't sleeping. I lost a lot of weight. I had no appetite. I was in front of my laptop and my computer all hours of the day, and waking up at night to make sure deliveries were going according to schedule. But we were able to raise close to $400,000, helped close to 15 to 20,000 soldiers. And I'm really, really, really proud of that. And to this day, like helping reservists is like my mission in life right now. So it's something I'm also working on.
Why are you so proud? What did it do for you?
So it's crazy because my husband's a reservist, but all of this passion started before I met him. And I'm not a particularly religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And I truly believe that Hashem made me meet Gav. It all came from that because Gav has done 400 plus days of Miluim, front lines in Sanchanim and paratroopers. Now I get to experience it more deeply, but it doesn't mean that I didn't, I really experienced it deeply before. I think growing up with an Israeli mom who's so proud of her army service and would always show us pictures and just I have a very deep connection to the Holocaust, and my great-grandparents are survivors, and just knowing deep in my core that we couldn't have any of this, we can't. Every time I have a coffee in Tel Aviv, I sit there and I say, there is a soldier right now that hasn't slept, that's on some shitty command, that's in Shmirah, and I can't be here if he's not there, or she's not there. And it's really at the forefront of my mind since I was a kid. And so now, obviously, I married a man who's an active reservist, and that made it deeper, but it's always been a passion of mine, for sure.
You grew up in a community in Philly, which always had a really big representation of Israelis, Israeli businesses, Israeli restaurants, even within your own family. And Olim often play a critical role as ambassadors to their home community. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between Philly and Israel?
Totally. So Philly is mini Israel, is what I call it. My actual street growing up had 5 Israeli families, and sometimes I would only hear Hebrew on night walks. Like,
Wow.
hey Pnina, ani shmarit, Gili. Like it was like a kibbutz. So of course we have Chef Mike, who have, the best Israeli cuisine ever, and people fly to Philly to try. And we went to Zahav like the weekend it opened.
Yeah.
And my cousins actually started a tahini company called Soom. They're 3 sisters, Jackie, Shelby, and Amy, that work closely with Chef Mike. So there's a lot of Philly Israel pride. We also have just a beautiful community of people relocating a lot. Teva had a major factory there, so a lot of families were coming in. My mom, when she moved to Philly, she moved in the 90s. She really knew no English. She had a high school degree, and she had, me and my brother were 16 months apart, so had 2 little babies at home and didn't have that network and had a hard time finding Israelis. And so she's made it like a life purpose and a passion to help as many Israelis as she can. So growing up, we've always had these like random people that just moved from Israel at our Shabbat dinner, and just like we have friends Hunter and Nir from
I was just about
Mazal.
to
My
say.
mom will literally text me like, I'm with Hunter and Nir today. I'm like, have fun. So
Amazing.
she's like a mom in every sense of the way, like just hugs and helps. And yeah, there's like a Philly Facebook group of just women that moved to Philly from Israel, and they all support each other. And I'm really, I love Philly. I'm really proud of the community we have there.
Do you ever think of moving back to Philly? Do you ever think of leaving Israel?
I definitely do. I don't know. I don't want to like overstep in any way. I love Israel so much. I'm like having extreme fears about the state of Israeli tech right now. I did a LinkedIn post this week how when it comes to like the AI race, I'm really deeply concerned about Israel. And that is kind of one of my fears when I think about the future of my career. Like we have no frontier models. There's 1 or 2 of the Descartes, really cool, but we have no commercial offices of Anthropic or OpenAI. Like just a lot of things in my brain that keep me up at night. And I understand that I tend to spiral sometimes, but I think about moving to America for the sake sometimes of my career, in all honesty.
That's super interesting. I feel like there's lots of other things at play in this country right now that we could be afraid of, and it's so interesting that the lack of AI is a big fear.
So I texted Abbey yesterday, I want to host a Women in an AI event. Another thing that I'm really passionate, I have so many passions, but if I have time to talk about it, is I go to these AI or tech events and there's no women in the crowd. I literally collect pictures on my phone of me at events, and it's me and like 3 other girls.
Yeah.
And it
Crazy.
annoys me and it frustrates me, and I want to try to understand why that is, what the bottleneck is. So I think I'm moving to America for that. I was going to get my MBA. I got in. I ended up not going. I think about it a lot. I could see myself going to America for 5 to 10 years and coming back once I've generated enough wealth to come back here and live here. So we'll see.
In the meantime, you have had such a diverse experience as an Ola. What is the number one piece of advice you would offer someone who's considering it or who just arrived?
So I think it's just to be fearless and say things with conviction. And I think growing up, my dad always said to me, you're just as smart as everyone else in the room. And I think it can be really scary to walk into a room that maybe you're not speaking the same language or have the same life experience. Maybe you weren't in the army, whatever it may be. And so I would just say, like, be fearless and be confident. And really, like, as my motto back to my ironSource story is, like, don't take no for an answer. Like, if you know that, like, you're meant for something, if you know whether it's a job or an opportunity, like, try the window, push all the obstacles away. Work, like, hard work can lead you anywhere. Like, truly, I believe that. I had no experience. I was a philosophy major. I was, like, this naive 21-year-old, and I just, like, really believe in bulldozing your way to where you want to go.
So what do you love most about living here?
I love the people. I love laughing. Like, it is, like, my favorite pastime is a deep belly laugh. And I feel like I'll walk on Bugershav and, like, Yitzchak, my juice guy, and I are cracking up. Like, literally when I was single, he, like, would make me juice and, like, give a bracha of me getting married. And, like, yesterday bracha on me to have kids. I'm like, Yitzchak, slow down, buddy. Like,
Slow your roll.
I'm always, like, mistalbit. Like, we're always, like, bantering. Like, I just love a good laugh. And I think people, you would think, oh, there's so much stress here. But, like, people laugh a lot. And I really love that. I love that I can have a Shabbat dinner, and this has literally happened before through Nouveau friends, and there was, like, 20 countries represented at my Shabbat dinner table. I just love the spontaneity as well. I'll say, yesterday I was at a film day, and I was telling my client, I love the fact that you can call someone on the walk home from work, like, where are you? Let's sit now. In America, I feel like when I'm hanging out with my friends, I'll be like, hey, do you want to hang out? Next, in 3 Tuesdays from now at 8 p.m., we can make a reservation. No, I want to hang out now. Yeah.
Where are you at?
Yeah, where are you at? Like, all the time. Like, my friends all the time. Let's go to dinner right now. Let's get hummus right now. Come over now. So I think having that spontaneity in life, you cannot get that anywhere else besides Israel. And I really try to use that as much as I can. I'm constantly having, like, last minute things and parties and meals and coffees. I really love it.
When you're looking back on your life and you're 80 years old, 90 years old, 100 years old, what's one thing that you think will have been true because you made Aliyah that wouldn't have been true otherwise?
I think starting my own business, being an entrepreneur, I think it is a small pond here. So if you're ambitious enough, you can be a big fish. I don't think, if I had never made Aliyah, I don't think I would be able to brand myself as clearly as, like, the TikTok tech girl, because there's a million of me's in New York or SF. Right. Whereas here, I'm maybe one of a few.
Okay, rapid fire.
Yeah.
We're going to ask you a couple of questions. One answer.
Okay. One word or?
One word.
One word.
Okay. Favorite Israeli food or snack?
Oh my God, I'm such a foodie. 1 second. Okay, let's be classic for snack, Bamba.
Favorite Hebrew word or slang?
Tachles.
Favorite place in Israel?
Tel Aviv.
What's the thing you miss most from America?
Trader Joe's.
1000%. Favorite TikTok influencer that's Israeli?
Yochanan Twina.
What's your only in Israel moment in one sentence?
In my Ulpan, when I first moved here, we got paired in buddies, and my buddy was the ambassador to the Netherlands.
Oh, totally only in Israel.
In a public Tel Aviv University Ulpan, so that was only in Israel.
1000%.
Gili, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is a joy.
Really
It
fun.
was so much fun.
Thank you, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with everyone you know. Yalla, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Yalla, let's go.